Kind of feel like I'm a bit dumb for talking to him, but want to know if I'm the jerk. So I, 17-year-old female, have been forced to babysit for my dad and his wife of 5 years for the last 4 summers. The kids are my dad's stepkids, who are currently 7, 6, and 5. No, the kids are 100% not my dad's biological kids. And yes, I am positive that they are not his kids. Doesn't really matter anyway. But I wanted to put that out here because I know the ages would make it appear like at least one could be, but no. My dad was never a very good dad to me. When I was a kid, he was really absent from our house. He left raising me to my mom and would show up when others were around to make it look good. But he never got involved or cared about me or my life. Actually, the one time I was always sure to see him was on his birthday, when he would get mom to cook his favorite meal and open gifts. He never failed to show up when it was about him. My mom got sick when I was 8 and my dad bailed, and he filed for divorce. He left me to deal with my dying mom, and unfortunately for her, the divorce didn't go through before she passed. So he was still her husband, and yeah, he wasn't emotionally present for me then, or physically. He dumped me on a babysitter until I was 11, and then I was seen as old enough to be left alone. When I was 12, he moved in with his wife, who was still pregnant at the time, and they weren't married then. They got married when her youngest was about 5 months old. They told me I was going to level up and be a good big sister to her kids so that they could live their own lives and the kids would have someone to look up to. Then came the forced babysitting during the summer, all summer long. I always tried to find ways out of it, but felt like I had no options, at least no realistic ones. My dad's wife is kind of better than my dad. She isn't very involved or directly caring to her kids, but she will often bark at me for not being sweeter to her kids and saying how sad her kids look when I don't interact with them. It's more than my dad would do, but she's not exactly getting involved with her own kids. I've been planning for over a year to get out. I turn 18 in May and graduate a couple of weeks later. Most likely I will go to stay with friends on my 18th birthday. I will be totally gone and never return. I won't babysit, and I know they expected that to happen, and I don't know that they would actually pay for someone else or if they'd maybe leave the kids without someone watching them. So I decided to tell my dad I won't be babysitting this summer or at all. In my head, at least if she cares a little, she might get someone else in. My dad told me I have been the most consistent person in the kids' lives, and I'm in butt for dismissing them like that. He told me I should be staying and doing what he and his wife want because they put a roof over my head for so long now. He told me I'm going to cost him money with this. His wife started yelling at me for leaving her kids behind and how sad they'll be. Am I the jerk? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot for not babysitting and for leaving as soon as possible. The kids' parents are responsible for them. You are not. If you truly believe they won't take proper care of the children, contact CPS or the equivalent where you are after you leave. Be sure you have all of your own documents, birth certificate, any identity documents, etc. It would probably be best if you hadn't told them, but that's water under the bridge. If you have a safe place to store these things, at a friend's or grandparents' or similar, do so now. Do everything you can to arrange for your own life with the real support you have elsewhere. You do not owe them for the bare minimum of providing you housing when you were a child. They have failed you, not given you anything that would create an obligation. Look into resources available for free or low-cost counseling too. Comment 2. Not the idiot. 1. Your dad is really something for saying that he has put a roof over your head. That's a parent's job. 2. If you're in the US, he has probably been getting Social Security survivors benefits for you. So actually, you have really been a benefit to him when you combine that with the free childcare you have been giving him. 3. I really hope you have a good support system. Is your mom's family around to help you get on your feet? Talk to your school counselor and tell them about your situation. They may know of local services that can help you out. You need to either go to college or get some technical skills that will help you land a good job. My heart hurts that you have been treated like this. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around after my last post. Here's what's been going down. Just when I thought things couldn't get more twisted, my dad's wife, let's call her Linda, decided to drop a bomb. She's leaving my dad, taking the kids, and moving across the country. No warning, no discussion, just up and announced it at dinner like she was talking about the weather. Everyone's jaws hit the floor, including mine. My dad, the king of not caring, suddenly looked like he'd been slapped with a wet fish. The kids started crying, and I just sat there feeling like the rug had been pulled out from under me. Turns out Linda had been having an affair with some guy she met online. She'd been planning this escape for months, squirreling away money and making arrangements. My dad was clueless, and I guess in a way, so was I. I mean, I knew their marriage wasn't perfect, but this? It was like a soap opera, but with worse acting. The next day, my dad did something I never thought he'd do. He begged me to stay, to help him through the divorce, and to be there for the kids until Linda left. He said he needed me, that I was his rock. It was rich coming from him. I felt like I was being walked all over again, but this time I had the upper hand. I told him no. I was done being the doormat, the unpaid babysitter, the forgotten daughter. I had my own life to live. But then the kids, they didn't ask for any of this. They were innocent in the chaos of their parents' making. I found myself torn between my desire to break free and the guilt of leaving them in a broken home. It was a mess, a real mess. In the midst of all this, my dad's true colors showed. He started drinking more, coming home late, and sometimes not at all. The house felt empty, even with the kids there. I started to see the toll it was taking on them, the confusion and hurt in their eyes. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash. And then, as if things couldn't get any more complicated, Linda's new boyfriend showed up. He was supposed to help her move, but instead he got cold feet and bailed on her. Linda was devastated, and suddenly she wasn't so sure about leaving anymore. But the damage was done. My dad wouldn't take her back, and the kids were stuck in the middle of a tug-of-war. I watched as my dad and Linda tore each other apart, using the kids as pawns in their petty games. It was disgusting. I wanted to scream, to shake some sense into them, but I knew it wouldn't make a difference. They were set in their ways, too wrapped up in their own drama to see the hurt they were causing. In the end, Linda left alone. The kids stayed with my dad, and I moved out the day after graduation, just like I planned. I couldn't be part of that toxic environment any longer. I had to think about my future, my sanity. I still think about the kids, though. I hope they're okay. I hope they find some stability, some normalcy in the chaos. As for my dad, well, he's on his own. Maybe he'll step up, maybe he won't. But it's not my responsibility anymore. I've got my own path to follow, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm in control of my life. Thanks for reading. My ex's stepdaughter bullies my daughter at school, so I cut off visitation and made her watch as we rode our horses without her. I find the entire thing to be absurd. I, 31 years old female, have a daughter. Bonnie, 13 years old female, and a son. August, 9 years old male with my ex Ralph, 32 years old male. Bonnie is not Ralph's biological child, but was with me in the very beginning when I was carrying her. The kids see him often, and we get along well. He has a wife, Donna, 32 years old female, and a stepdaughter, Mandy, 13 years old female. I get along fine with Donna. Mandy is good with August, but terrible with Bonnie. She tells her things that a teenage girl shouldn't say to another, which we never knew why she is like this with Bonnie. Since Bonnie has always maintained her privacy, she never went out of her way to be friends with Mandy or to impress her. Mandy and her friends bother Bonnie and her friends at school, which has caused Bonnie not wanting to stay at her father's house. We had to rearrange Bonnie and August's time schedule when Mandy stays at her father's house, so they don't have to see her, which was the best for all of us. Bonnie and August have been happier since. We do have horses. Bonnie and August are great riders. We have 3 horses, all ours, and Bonnie has invited her friends to ride our horses, and so has August. Mandy's attitude shifted once she knew we had horses. She was now treating Bonnie at school more politely. Mandy asked Bonnie if she can ride our horses and if I can teach her to ride. Bonnie just walked away. I guess Mandy felt offended by this and went to tell her mother. I got calls from Donna wondering if I could please teach her kid to ride or just take her out a couple times a week on the horses. I declined her request. She claims that Mandy misses August and Bonnie. I just hung up. Donna did quit, and for a while to ask and push more. I never responded to her demand when Ralph did come get the kids. I asked him to tell his wife to stop being pushy, He said he'd take care of it. It did stop. I was grateful for that. Around late April, August will be celebrating his birthday, and he will only be inviting his friends. Bonnie asked if she can bring her friends. I told her yes, it won't be so big, but quite a bit of kids. August will also have a party at his dad's as well. I told Ralph about the birthday plan. He asked if Mandy can come. I told him not at my house. I don't want August or Bonnie uncomfortable. I also told him he can do whatever pleases him at his own house. Ralph told me he understands and left it at that. For a few days, things have been quiet and good. But when Ralph was picking up our kids one day, waiting outside, and I went out there with our children, I saw he brought Mandy and they got out. He asked if Mandy can see my horses. I told him no, that I didn't want her on my property or anywhere near my horses. Mandy just started crying. I continued telling him that he broke our agreement for our kids' schedule. Ralph just said I should give her a chance. I said that he and Mandy needed to go. They drove off. My kids told me they don't like her. I am not going to force my kids to go. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update, comment 1, not the idiot. You set a clear boundary and they continue to try to break it. You've asked multiple times, it seems, and they keep pushing. You stood your ground and didn't give in. You're only doing what's right for your kids and protecting them from a bully. Can't see how that makes you a jerk. Comment 2. You are providing a safe space for your kids, for your horses, and for yourself. Stand your ground because it is your responsibility to do so, and you have every right to. Not the idiot. Now for the update, thanks for sticking around. A lot has happened since the last post. So Ralph's persistence with Mandy and the horses was just the beginning. Last week, things took a turn when Bonnie came home from school with a bruised arm. She said Mandy had pushed her into a locker after Bonnie refused to invite her to ride the horses. I was fuming. I called Ralph and he promised to handle it, but I could tell he was just trying to keep the peace with Donna. Then 2 days later, I found out that Ralph had secretly taken Mandy riding on our horses while I was at work. My neighbor saw them and thought I should know. I felt betrayed. Ralph knew how I felt, yet he went behind my back. I confronted him and he admitted it, saying he just wanted to make Mandy happy. I couldn't believe it. I told him this was a breach of trust and that he couldn't use our horses anymore. But here's where I made the wrong choice. In my anger, I told Ralph that he couldn't see August or Bonnie until we sorted this out. I thought I was protecting my kids, but I didn't realize how much they'd miss their dad. Bonnie was upset, and August didn't understand why he couldn't see his father. I was too caught up in my own feelings to see theirs. The aftermath was a mess. Donna showed up at my house yelling about how I was keeping the kids from Ralph. She said I was being petty and using the kids as pawns. I lost my temper and we had a shouting match right there in the driveway. The kids heard everything. Bonnie was crying and August was scared. I had never felt so ashamed. But it didn't stop there. Ralph threatened legal action if I didn't let him see the kids. I was stubborn and said I'd see him in court. It was all spiraling out of control. My sister told me I was being unreasonable, but I was too proud to admit it. Then just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, Bonnie's school called. Mandy had spread a rumor about Bonnie and it had gotten out of hand. Kids were teasing her and Bonnie didn't want to go to school anymore. I felt like it was all my fault. If I hadn't made such a big deal about the horses, none of this would have happened. I had to fix things. I called Ralph and we had a long talk. We agreed to put the kids first and to communicate better. I apologized to Bonnie and promised to make things right at school. I even reached out to Donna, though that was the last thing I wanted to do. We're going to family counseling now. It's not perfect, but we're trying. And as for Mandy, I decided to let her come over and ride the horses under my supervision. Bonnie wasn't thrilled, but she understood why I did it. I hope I'm not making another mistake. Thanks for reading. My husband's colleagues accuse me of snitching to my uncle, their boss. So I expose their dirty laundry and watch their careers crumble. I, 29-year-old female, am on friendly terms with a couple of my husband's 30-year-old male friends. My husband works with this group of people in the same tech company, so they are colleagues as well as friends. Let's call them Kurt, Veronica, and Rachel. The three of them often visit our home, and we hang out together and chill. And on these occasions, Kurt and Veronica have complained about their bosses, as friends do amongst each other. The thing is, one of their bosses that they like to complain about is my uncle, my father's brother. My uncle has been in that company for at least 10 years and is in a very senior position. He is also my husband's boss. But we've never told Kurt or Veronica that we know him. The last time we hung out was last Sunday. As usual, Kurt was telling me how his boss, my uncle, didn't approve his work-from-home request. He was upset that his request got denied, but my uncle granted work from home to 2 other female employees who had just come back from their maternity leaves. And he said a few other things about him, like how stingy he is and how he's an old guy who doesn't understand how work from home is better for productivity than working from the office. I just listened to Kurt, smiled, and empathized with him. But we never told him that we knew his boss. Fast forward to yesterday, I posted an old family picture of mine on Instagram, which I found after many years, where all my family was gathered, including my uncle. He looked young, but was still recognizable. What I had forgotten was that I had added Rachel on my Instagram some time ago. We never chatted on that app, so I had completely forgotten about it. As you can guess, she saw the picture and must have told Kurt, because he freaked out and confronted my husband. When he returned home, he told me how freaked out Kurt was and what happened in the office. He said he simply accepted that his boss was my uncle and we knew him, and Kurt walked away angry. Kurt messaged me last night saying how hurt he was that I would hide such an important detail and let him talk negatively about his boss. He's having a meltdown, saying I must have told my uncle what he says behind his back, and that's why my uncle is giving him unfavorable treatment. I never even told my uncle that I knew these group of people who worked under him. I didn't think it was anything important to be told. People tend to dislike their bosses, and it's okay. And I'm confident that my uncle must have some solid reason to deny Kurt's work-from-home request. And even if he doesn't, it's not my place to tell him how to handle his business. My husband also supports me and told me it's completely my decision whether to tell people who I'm related to. Kurt and Veronica feel I should have had some integrity and informed them beforehand that their boss was my uncle. So, am I the AE for not telling them? Edit. Update. My husband and I invited Kurt and Veronica over to our place. I apologized for not telling them about my uncle. I explained that everything they've spoken about regarding their workplace at our home will always remain inside our home. We told them their anger was not unjust and we deserved it. Kurt also apologized for the way he spoke about my uncle. I don't know if we'll have that level of friendship again with them, but this matter is now civilly resolved. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You're the idiot by omission. Kurt messaged me yesterday night saying how hurt he was that I would hide such an important detail and let him talk badly about his boss. All of the drama between you and your friends could have been avoided had you simply been forthcoming with relevant information. Your playing games to see what might be said, etc. started all of this. Comment 2. Your husband is the AH here. He withheld information that he knew would affect the group dynamic. If your husband earned his position without taking advantage of the relationship, there was nothing to hide. Now his co-workers know and probably won't trust him in work or personal situations going forward. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So after we all made up, things took a turn for the worse. Kurt's been acting strange at work and my husband said he's been super quiet, not his usual self. Then out of nowhere, Kurt gets fired. Just like that. No warning, nothing. He thinks my uncle found out about the complaints and that's why he got the boot. But my husband said there were rumors about budget cuts and reorganization, so who knows? Now Veronica is on edge, thinking she might be next. She's been coming to me, asking if I've heard anything from my uncle, which I haven't. I feel bad for her, but there's nothing I can do. It's a tough spot to be in, knowing someone's future might be on the line and you're connected, even if it's just by family. Then Rachel drops a news. She tells me she overheard a conversation between my uncle and another higher up. They were talking about Kurt and how he wasn't fitting in with the company culture anymore. That's when it hit me. My uncle knew. He knew Kurt was the one complaining, and I bet that's why he was let go. It's not my fault, but it feels like it is. I'm torn up about this. I never wanted anyone to get hurt because of me. My husband says I shouldn't blame myself, that it's just how the corporate world works sometimes. But it's hard not to feel responsible. And just when I thought things couldn't get any more complicated, Veronica comes to me with tears in her eyes. She's been having an affair with one of the other managers, and she's worried that if this gets out, she'll lose her job too. She's begging me to keep it a secret. I'm not good with secrets, not after everything that's happened. I'm starting to resent these gatherings. What used to be fun and relaxing is now just a source of stress and drama. I'm thinking of cutting off Kurt for good. He's become too much of a liability, and I can't have that kind of trouble in my life. It's harsh, but I've got to look out for myself and my family first. So that's where we're at, a mess of secrets, lies, and job insecurity. I never thought my life would turn into some sort of soap opera, but here we are. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.